Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Abnuena with the number 2002010087. Okay. English and intercultural communication. Okay, what is culture? Culture can be defined as all the ways of life, including arts, beliefs, and institutions of population that are passed down from generation to generation. Culture has been called the way of life for an entire society. As such, it includes code, manners, dress, language, religion, rituals, and art. In other words, culture is a set of patterns of human activity within a community or social group and the symbolic structure that gives significance to such activity. Customs, laws, dress, architectural style, social standard, and tradition are all examples of cultural elements. Types of culture. There are various different types of culture which sociologists refer to. First, consumer culture. Second, folk culture, hype culture, low culture, public culture, and mass culture. Consumer culture. Consumer culture can be defined as a culture where social status, values, and activities are centered on the consumption. The act of buying goods or service, you see it every day in the street. Look at how many people have the new iPhone or smartwatches. Budaya konsumsi. Folk culture. Folk culture consists of local customs and beliefs that directly reflect beliefs and experience of the people, such as folk songs and stories that are handed down from one generation to the next. The main characteristic of folk culture remembered by a carrot are that it is authentic, created by ordinary people, associated with active participation, rooted in the experience of ordinary people, associated with pre-industrial societies, and traditional. High culture. High culture is linked to a culture which is usually expressed in an intellectual or artistic way. Examples of are going to the museum, listening to opera, etc. Do not get confused with One Direction or Taylor Swift. This is more classic, more than contemporary. Davis at 2000 suggests that high culture is the preserve of very few in society because it involves art, literature, music, and intellectual thought which few can create or even appreciate. Low culture. Low culture incorporates popular culture and is linked to consumption by the masses. This form of culture is mainly experienced by working class and poor individuals. It focuses on spending money or watching shows with easy to understand language. Popular culture refers to the pattern of cultural experience and attitude that exists in mainstream society. This is linked to many other types of culture mentioned here as it incorporates perspective of each one. It is aimed at ensuring that all forms of society can access it. Therefore, it has both low and high elements of culture. Mass culture. Mass culture is intrinsically linked to consumer culture. The idea of mass culture is often based on Marxist theories, such as Marcuse and Adorno. The media plays an active part in promoting capitalism, which indoctrinates society into being a consumer. Think about how much advertising occurs on TV. From this viewpoint, the audience become passive members of mass society, unable to think for themselves. By Giddens at 2008. The main characteristics of mass culture are can be created by commercial organizations associated with industrial societies, manufactured passive produced for profit, and inauthentic. Thought is defined as the act of thinking about something to form ideas and opinion, or an idea or opinion produced by thinking. In other words, thought is viewed as the process of using your mind to consider something. It can also be the product of that process. An idea or just a thing you're thinking about. Thought can also refer to the organized beliefs of a parent, individual, or group. Intercultural communication. What is intercultural in English communication? Intercultural communication refers to the communication between people from two different cultures. Intercultural communication is symbolic, interpretive, transactional, contextual process in which people from different cultures create shared meanings. Importance. Why English is important in intercultural communication. Fit with intercultural dialogue, language is a core element in intercultural communication, as language is closely tied to one's identity, worldview, and positioning. It influences how people from different cultural backgrounds interact and perceive one another. Forms of intercultural communication. At least, there are four variations of intercultural communication: interracial, intracultural, inter- interethnic, and last, international. Three types of intercultural communication, three perspectives on intercultural communication. A study on cultural and intercultural communication came up with three perspectives, which are the indigenous approach, indigenous approach, cultural approach, and cross-cultural approach. Indigenous approach. I don't know, indigenous approach, trying to understand the meaning of different cultures. The process of passing perceived indigenous knowledge and how that is interpreted. Cultural approach. Cultural approach is similar to the indigenous approach. However, the cultural approach also focuses on the socio-cultural context of individual by NS 2009. Cross-cultural approach. Cross-cultural approach focuses on two or more cultures to perceive cross-cultural validity and generalizability. Six components of intercultural communication: message, channel, feedback, context, environments, and interference. Each component influence and is influenced by culture. Is culture context, environment, message culture is represented in all eight components every time we communicate. All communication is intercultural. Intercultural approach in teaching English. What is intercultural approach in teaching English? Thus, intercultural education, where the emphasis is on the confrontation of first and second culture of first and second language, is an approach that emanates from the immediate environment and teach while living in an environment that is not monoethnic, monolingual. Principle of Principle of IC: respectful sharing of opinions, appreciation of diversity, meaningful interaction, dialogue between equals, learning about each other, learning from one another, and social transformation. Here's the reference. Thank you. I think that's all for me. Thank you so much. This one.